Douglas Cooling and Heating, serving the Birmingham area for 38 years. 988-3706. That's Douglas.
This is the Weather Xtreme video for Saturday, December the 4th. I'm meteorologist Brian Peters, and boy, when you talk about December and you talk about Central Alabama this year, it's going to be cold. Let's get to our Skycam network, and there is a shot from Birmingham, looking out over Red Mountain. The light's winking out, but we've got some clouds, as you can see there. Clouds visible also with a beautiful sunrise. At Gadsden, we've got some low clouds as well as some higher clouds. And then at Tuscaloosa, things are just plain socked in there with a nice deck of clouds as we look out over the stadium. The surface map shows a surface low over the central Mississippi River Valley with an interesting band of snow extending all the way from the Canadian border just to the west of the northern Great Lakes, all the way down to the Ohio River Valley. And at the upper atmosphere, we're looking at a series of short waves that are digging the trough over the eastern half of the country and going to sharpen up that northwesterly flow and bring us some of the coldest air that we've seen so far this year. Speaking of cold, look at all those single-digit minus values up there in Canada. So it's a very, very cold air poised to our north and northwest. Not that cold here, although we have another one of those interesting gradients. Temperatures in the eastern part of the state in the 30s, generally lower to mid-30s, while at Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, we're in the 40s. And we're not going to see a lot of warming across the northern half of the state due to the cloud cover. The watch warning map shows us a lot of those winter weather advisories extending all the way from parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin all the way down to parts of the Appalachians and Virginia and western North Carolina. QPF-wise, not much for us here. It looks like our best chance for any precipitation is actually going to come today, but for most of us, we stay dry with the probabilities very low. No tropics to worry about since the hurricane season has ended, so let's get into the 06Z GFS model run. And it looks like the GFS might be overdoing the precipitation a little bit today. It certainly is fairly accurate for Tennessee and Kentucky as we look at, or as I looked at radar, but it looks like it's producing a little more rain than I think is likely to happen across that area. And of course, in the upper atmosphere, we're dealing with that short wave. Now, tomorrow, that short wave digs in, but look what's happening behind it. Coming into the Canadian, U.S.-Canadian border is another wave that's going to bring some more cold air. But with this one sharpening up, that brings the 540 line down, and using that just as a reference point, brings that down into northern Alabama, near the Alabama-Tennessee line. There comes that next short wave on Monday that's going to be reinforcing the cold air, bringing us the 540 line all the way down to just south of Montgomery. So you can get the idea of it being cold for a number of days. The main trough is just off the Atlantic coast on Tuesday, but we're under a really strong northwesterly flow. And look at that little bit of mischief that the GFS is suggesting there in the Texas-Oklahoma panhandle, a little shortwave trough. Now, they don't do much with it at the moment, but let's follow along here. 540 line still very much into Alabama, but the cold air in place. And then here comes that little shortwave trough across the northern Gulf. Now, the GFS is not doing much with that. But I'm not going to jump out and say we're going to have any kind of wintry precipitation across the Gulf Coast, but we are setting up for a pattern with the cold air in place. And with that little short wave, if we have enough moisture, which is going to be one of the questions, but that is something we certainly need to keep our eye on. Surface map on Thursday shows the high with the 540 line almost out of Alabama, but not quite, as we moderate a little bit, but certainly not that warm. But by the end of the week, we should be back with highs in the 50s. You can see that the overall pattern by Friday has moderated quite a bit, as we have not nearly the amplitude that we will have here Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe. And, of course, that shows that the 540 line is now back up into extreme northeastern Tennessee. By Saturday, that northwesterly flow is just still there, just not as sharp, so we're not going to see quite the cold weather next Saturday that we're going to be seeing this coming week for the most part of at least the first half of the week. And that shows the possibility of some clouds and keeping the 540 line right there in the vicinity of Nashville. So definitely some cold air, probably the coldest air we've seen, as some spots may get into the teens. Well, let's look at voodoo country. Oh, look at this. What do you expect? The northwesterly flow continues, and that certainly looks cold. And then this one looks perhaps wet as we get into a nearly zonal flow pattern where the fronts can't get by us very much. But if we have enough moisture, that looks like we could have a wet pattern. And then, whoa, look at this on the 19th. Another cold look to it. So the one thing you can get from the long-range GFS is it's going to stay interesting. So stay with us for that. We've always got something fun to talk about out into the voodoo country. Well, appreciate you tuning in. I expect to be back with the next one by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. In the meantime, don't forget to take in the Helena Christmas Parade today. I'll be emceeing it from the reviewing stand just outside the City Hall area. And if you're traveling around Helena, be sure to avoid the area. The parade starts at 1:30, and that means the roads get shut down and traffic gets tied up, especially on the southern extent of Valleydale Road and 261. So hope to see you out there. In the meantime, hope that you have a great day, and Godspeed.
Each day there are new stories to tell about the people who live here and the place we call home.
All of the faces that I see, all of the places close to me, they're all part of all the best things about home.
Sharing your stories on ABC 3340, Alabama's news leader.